Okay, so yeah, we'll start recording, log into our server so we can manage and configure DHCP services. We should have already installed the DHCP service role on the server 3. So if you log into server 1 and check out your server manager, you should have an exclamation point on your little flag at the top of the screen. And it should mention about needing to set up DHCP on server 3. If that little flag is not there, then you would need to go through the process of adding the role. Pretty easy, manage, add roles and features, and you just next through finding server 3 and picking on the DHCP server checkbox. After you get that done, then the little flag should pop up on your screen. But we tried to do that well in advance in the semester. I'm thinking a lot of you would have that. And Joshua Main, you can just like restart later on that screen, because that takes a while to restart. It installs Windows and patches the thing for about 40 minutes for it to work. I know, because Miss O'Donnell's computer had to do that yesterday. It wasn't her computer yesterday, though. I'm going to go cancel this out because, well, I've got the DHCP server already installed on my server 3. And when it finishes out, like Jonathan's here, it won't let you know that it's done. It'll just, the bar will be across the screen, just hit close. You also notice you'll have an exclamation point appear now at the top of your screen for configuring. Some of you have already clicked the link. I didn't tell you to click the link yet, Matthew. Okay, you're supposed to click the link, but yep. And I see some slowness on some of the remote people, so yeah, this will be a YouTube. You may have to work on this outside of class because it is so slow with the remote PC and some internet connections. So if you're taking system virtualization in the springtime, it looks like you're going to be coming to Cisco all Tuesday and Thursday, but I think you're using both rooms, 104 and 103 at the same time, so you can be socially distant. But for VMware class, we're going to hope that one of the rooms, like 133, 104, 103, will be empty, and you can Zoom from there, so you can be like spaced out. You may need a microphone and or a headphone, and so you can talk, possibly. You'll be teamed up with a partner. It'll be kind of interesting. You'll be continuously having a remote person to talk with to try to work through labs and stuff through that class. But I guess it's also kind of a good learning experience. Because IT, a lot of times you're in one city and somebody else is in another city, and y'all are team members and y'all work together. Interesting. We'll get through it though, hopefully. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and hit the little flag from Server Manager on server 1, and I'm going to go ahead and complete the DHCP server configuration wizard. Pretty nice wizard. There's a lot of stuff that's just automatically done that used to have to be done more manual in the past. You had to install it, then you had to go configure it, and then you had to go authorize the DHCP server. It was not, I mean, it was okay. You just had to read some documentation on how to make it work and make sure you did all the steps. Otherwise, it wouldn't work. The dialog box here that we have pretty much takes us through and make sure that we hit all the steps to make it work. But the big thing was authorizing the DHCP server. Kind of dumb, but authorizing the DHCP servers used to be a big key thing. If you had Active Directory, DHCP server would not actually turn on and start working unless you went through the extra step of authorizing it for the domain with the administrative credentials. It was trying to help prevent rogue DHCP servers on the network. However, you can just take a off-the-shelf router and put your own DHCP server addresses and plug it into the network. And well, it's not Microsoft, so it's not going to know not to start up and not try to start working. So authorized DHCP is not that big of a help on the network. I'm going to click next. It's Microsoft's way of trying to add security, but it didn't really add security since nobody else followed their directions. Okay, specify the credentials used to authorize this DHCP server in Active Directory services. Well, we can use the following credentials that we're already logged in as, or we can supply different credentials. Let's use what's already there. Everybody should have Contoso Administrator, I hope, in the dialog box. Super easy. Commit. Created security groups. Authorizing DHCP server, done. Please restart the DHCP server service on the target computer for the security groups to be effective. What does that mean? If you're lazy and didn't read this dialog box, you'd have a lot of trouble if you didn't do it. Yay, Jeremiah got in. Okay, Jeremiah, we've got, we're setting up the DHCP server. So far, we've clicked our little flag on server 1 and clicked set up DHCP server, and we clicked next a couple of times. And that's where we're at. That's all we've done. But we've also learned about authorizing. I'm going to go and click close. So at this point in time, I'm going to launch the DHCP feature. It should be under your tools menu, and you should have DHCP. If DHCP does not appear under your tools menu, you'll need to go add, remove roles and features, and you'll have to go to the feature section, expand out the remote server administration tools until you find the DHCP manager and add that feature in. But I've got DHCP, so I'm going to go ahead and click it. So then my DHCP management tool opens up. Where's my DHCP server? It's not there. Jared, what would you do? No, running and crying in the corner is not the right answer. Okay, he actually said the right answer. He said right click and add DHCP server. Sorry, I didn't mean to pick on you, but yes, I did. He answered correctly. He said right click, add DHCP server. And if you've authorized your DHCP server, well, it should appear in the list automatically. I just click the radio button, authorized DHCP server. If for some reason it's not authorized yet, you could go ahead and click and manually type it in. And then there should be an option to right click and authorize it. But at this point in time, I just click the radio button, this authorized DHCP server, click OK. It will add it. And what I was talking about is if it was not authorized and it was started, you could add this, manually type the server name, highlight it, click action, click authorize. You used to have to do that with older servers. The dialog box did not pop up and do it for you. Okay, once it is authorized, they said we need to restart it. Again, that'd be clicking the server, either right on it or click actions, go to all tasks and click on the restart. So either using the actions menu or right clicking and telling it to restart. Once the restart's complete, you should have green checkboxes on your screen. Anytime group membership is modified, you have to log out and log back in. And that's what restarting of the DHCP server did. It's a program. All programs run as a user account. So when we authorized it, it created groups of accounts. It added the DHCP user into the groups. And that's why we had to restart it, because that forced a new login when it was restarted. It's also key if you make any type of group membership changes for our user accounts, they will have to log out and log back in. Okay, it looks like I'm seeing green, I think. Green. Green. Right. Why are you connected to server 1? I was gonna say server 1 shouldn't have a DHCP server on it. Doesn't act like it's authorized. Click on it and click action and authorized. Yeah, I still see your flag. It wasn't authorized at the top. Go up to your flag and well, that's for server 1. Yeah, don't do server 1. Okay, just go back to server 3 and manage it. Yeah, I think it's already off. Just restart it one more time and then. Now just click on server 3 and then click the F5 key.
What?
F5.
Oh.
Huh. That's weird. It may just be reporting weird for a little bit.
Okay.
So you can I think it'll work. We'll troubleshoot a little bit later on if it doesn't work. Okay, so we got our server 3 up and going. You can expand some stuff out. It's really not, Dhcp normally is not really needed too much for IPv6 except for pushing out DNS server entries. The router typically pushes out its address, so they automatically know their IP address and the route, most likely. So typically DHCP is just limited to IPv6 and DNS. We're not going to mess with IPv6 right now. So IPv4, we're going to focus on it. We've got some server options and policies and filters, but it's not configured at this point in time. So let's, before we configure it, I want to go remove the IP address off of my client machine. So on my client machine, my Windows 10, I'll go ahead and connect and I guess log in as an administrator at contoso.com. You'll have rights to change the IP address. That's weird. Why is it doing that? Because I'm pretty sure I've logged in as administrator before to this thing. Interesting. Okay, well, I'm going to open up a command prompt and I'm just going to do odd stuff like ping client 1, ping-t client 1. Oh, that's pinging a IPv6 address. Ping-4-t client 1. So -4 forces it to ping an IPv4 address and not try to ping an automatic local net IPv6 address. The -t is a continuous ping like it automatically does in Linux. And it just continuously pings. I'm going to leave that on my screen, just continuously pinging while I remove the IP address from my network adapter. So opened up Network and Sharing Center, click on Ethernet, click on Change Adapter Options. What? Okay, I'll click on Network and Sharing Center, bring up the legacy one. Very interesting. So that works. I don't know why it said no permission, but I clicked Network and Sharing Center. I clicked the Ethernet icon. Now I'm just going to go under Properties. I'll go to DCIPP version 4 and obtain automatically on both of those. And I'm going to hit OK. And OK. And close. I've done enough Cisco that should not be a problem for you. Other than having to go to Network and Sharing Center link instead of change adapter options, but some of you may have had that change adapter options work for you. I'm going to go ahead and close out settings. Just get it to DHCP on Windows 10. I'm going to keep getting a bunch of general failures. That's pretty cool. General failure. Get home. How was your day at school? That was a general failure in Mr. Goodman's class. I've seen some of y'all smile at that. Some of my jokes are funny. I apologize for the 98% of the other ones, though. But that, you may be interviewed. Ping is a great troubleshooting tool. That -T, I've seen it on interview entry exams for companies. How do you do a continuous ping, or what does ping-T do? And you have to explain it. Ping-4 is becoming the popular one to know about. It forces a TCP/IP version 4 ping. Okay, so I've got a continuous ping going. I'm getting general transmit failures. I was kind of thinking it might be able to ping itself when it gets an APIPA address, but that can take up to 5 minutes to get an APIPA address. I think I'm just impatient. I want it to start pinging the APIPA address. Now it's got an APIPA. It can't find itself though. Oh well, I got a 169.254.41.122. Not IP config. I'm sure y'all seen that before. That normally means bad stuff. Look, bad stuff's on the screen. It won't ping. Let's go fix that by going back to our server 1. I think everybody's probably had enough time to switch your network adapter over to DHCP. So from server 1, we will now configure the DHCP server. So from the DHCP server management window, right-click IP version 4. And we have some options here. What do you think we need to do?
New scope.
New scope. Well, you're right. Click on new scope. We got a nice wizard, so I'm going to go next. It's going to ask us scope name. I don't know, I'll just type something there. Just so you know, the name's not important. I think that pretty much lets you know the name's not that important.
I beg to differ.
So I'm going to go hit next. In a production environment, you should use something like Toso's scope or something, or headquarters, HQ site, maybe name it by site, physical location, if you got multiple locations. We have a our DHCP server. So we've got a BB scope and a CERC scope and a Heber Spring scope and LRAFB scope and stuff like that. Okay, so configuring settings, enter the range of addresses that the scope distributes. Well, my numlock has to be on so it doesn't jump to the end of the screen when I hit the number 1. Okay. What do we put here? 192? 168? What? What's this class IP address?
I think it's about 2.
192.168.2. Okay. Yep. And .1. That's your start address. .0 is the network. An ending IP address. 192.168. 2.254. Subnet calculator cheat. Oh no. You can just open this dialog box anytime you want and click the up and down arrows to figure out what your subnet mask will be based on the CIDR link. Don't cheat, do it in your head. Okay. So the length is going to be 24 because that's what we're using. Now you're maybe thinking, wait a second, Mr. Goodman, .1 and .2 and .3 are statically assigned to the servers. Why are we starting at .1? Well,
Why not?
yeah, why not? There's a couple of things you can do. You can just put the entire scope in there, or you could start it at like 50 or something. I see a lot of home routers start at 50, where you can use 1 through 49 as a static address on machines if you want to. Some just start at 1, but I'm going to go ahead and throw the entire scope in just for other things that we can do. More configuration items in here that I want to show you, like reserved addresses or excluded addresses. I want reserved and excluded. We'll have to show both of them in the purpose. So I'm just going to put the entire subnet, and I'm going to go next. And now, because on the next screen, it talks about, do you want to exclude anything? And these are things that would not be distributed because they are already statically assigned. You can exclude single addresses by just typing in a single address and click add. You can exclude a range without putting in an address and then an ending address. So I'm going to put 192.168.2.1 and the ending address 192.168.2.49. I'm going to click add. So I'm going to leave .1 to .49 assigned to my servers, my switches, my printers, anything else that I might need. Just statically assign stuff to. And that's just a random number chosen for this lab. You'd have to determine the size of your network, how many switches would be on your network, how many is going to be managed switches that need IP addresses that you're going to statically assign, and possibly exclude the range. And I think I've done this in Cisco from commands. Yep. DHCP is not really any different from that. It's just being done on a Microsoft Windows server system, and they are pretty popular to be doing them on a graphical interface versus a Cisco router, depending on the size. I mean, if you got a small client network somewhere, you're probably going to run DHCP on the router, but you got one that's got a domain set up and member servers where you can throw a DHCP server on it, probably do it on a Windows machine in that case. And they can be done on Linux and stuff too. I'm going to go ahead and click next. Least duration, the default's 8. You can adjust it at any point in time, but 8's a very common least duration day. It's more than a week. So if somebody goes on vacation for 5 days and they come back, maybe, I don't know, maybe they'll keep the same address or not. It's just 8 is the default. So I'm going to keep that. I'm going to go next. Typically, you wouldn't want to move it off of 8 days unless you're an ISP and you have tons of customers. Then you'd move it down to a day to maybe an hour. But that's the only reason you'd move it off of 8. Do you want to configure the Dhcp options for this scope now? What's the rest of this asking? Let's see. It says we might need to dish out default gateways, DNS servers, and extremely old Windows settings. If you're running into any Windows like 3.11 machines, for Sean, you might need a Windows. Hey, I've installed Windows 3.1 within the last 16 months or so. Okay, so yeah, we're going to go ahead and configure those options now. Go and click next. The Windows Internet Naming Service, and it was not for the internet really. It just, no, don't do it. So I'm going to click next. Router and default gateway. Okay, put a router address in there. What is it? Why do I hear people typing? We don't have a router in this room. Remember, we're not connected to the internet. It's very, very rare that you wouldn't have a router, except for this class. We did internal networking. We had no router to get out anything. We had to shut our systems down and mount the VHDX file and run PowerShell script to patch the system. We could not do Windows updates. So yeah, no gateway. Just leave it blank and go next. It has already pre-detected the DNS servers because it's Active Directory integrated. If for some reason your DNS servers are not in your list, you need to manually dot them and add each one of them. But it was smart enough to go out there and figure out like, hey, Active Directory, let's pre-populate this because it's probably what they want to tell clients. And they're right. Very, very logical to use the actual DHCP servers. Okay, you could always add in there. What's the cool one to add in there for like an emergency? I probably shouldn't have hit add. I was gonna remove it, but it doesn't exist. Just stop. What is that? It's Google's public DNS, if you didn't already know it. You want to still add it? No, I don't want to add it. I was just typing it in to see how many people knew 8888 was. It's not the law firm. It's Google's public DNS, and you could add that as a tertiary DNS where you got 1 and 2. Great, you can access everything. Then 8, in case that your servers go down, the users could maybe still get to the internet. Just a thought. I mean, you may not want to do that, but some people do that. You may want everything controlled by your DNS, and we're going to go next now. So we've not done any changes to here other than type a bunch of 8s and cancel it out. So next. Wins. Why, Microsoft? Why are you still wanting a Wins server to be put up?
These are the people who won't let you name a file con just because it breaks the DOS program. So keep in mind, they refuse to break anything. They don't have to.
Yeah, con was for like console or keyboard, and yeah, it would definitely break stuff. I think the programmers it's just in the code, and they just keep on reusing the same code. So they just never have taken this out. That'd be deleting something, and they're not going to do that. So I'm going to go ahead and go next. But that is completely not needed anymore. Do you want to activate the scope now?
No.
Or later? And that's not candy. What? Now or later. All right. I've heard that before. Candy, get it at Halloween time? Yeah, okay. Maybe not. Yes. I'm gonna go and activate the scope now. Might as well. Next and finish. Oh no, where's my client machine? Oh no. I logged in time to see that it got an address. 50 again, but you know. That's not very hard. I'll refresh my screen, the little information logo goes away. So I'm hoping that y'all got replies now, and it auto got an address. We have reached break time. I'm just going to let this system continuously ping and leave this up, and we're going to discuss other cool features that you would want to do on a daily basis, possibly, or a weekly basis to manage your DHCP server if you've got one running on your network. Although most admins just don't look at it again once it's set up.
Mine didn't work.
Show me the server. I don't know, we'll just let it sit there until break time's over.
Okay.
There could be a 5-minute window sometimes.
Okay.
It takes. I want to just wait on it. Look, it's working now. Cool. So that was just waiting a little bit for it to start working. Okay, so at this point, has everybody got a ping going on? You got an address. Awesome. So I'm going to go and log back in. Mine's continuously pinging there. look at other stuff that we can do. One of the things you can back up and restore, however, and typically don't have to manually back up the system. It backs up once every hour automatically. Restoring, though, that's something. So if I was going to upgrade server 3, or maybe throw it away because it's just too old, install a server 4 somewhere, and I wanted to retrieve all of my DHCP server leases and addresses and everything and get the new server up and running, I would open up File Explorer. And I've done this recently, within the past 2 years. I'd access the DHCP server from File Explorer, whack, whack, server 3, whack, $. And that should take me to the root of the DHCP server's drive.
Quickly delete server 32, or system 32.
Yes. I'll go into Windows. How to properly retrieve the backup is yeah, delete system 32. Okay, that's a joke. So we're going to open up system 32. You'll find DHCP. And there you'll find a folder called backup. And that's basically what that you want to retrieve. However, I don't think it's at 802. It should create another one. It should already be creating another one pretty soon. On date modified. But you'd want to copy the backup folder. And all of its contents. You'd make sure that the date is something, you know, fairly within an hour or two. You could manually back up. Let me go ahead and manually back up. Back up. Oh, you can put in the specific folder if you want to, but really you don't have to run the backup program. I normally just go take the backup folder. And then I'd run a restore. Browse to wherever I copy that to and restore it to the new server. And then it would start working. So the DHCP server is kind of unique in backing up and restoring it, and that it backs up its own self. The only thing is you need to go and do something with that backup folder, or at least maybe have a copy of server 3 somewhere where that you can access Windows System 32 DHCP and backup to get to that point and restore a DHCP server. And then, like I said, a restore is pretty easy. You just click restore, browse to the folder, click OK, and it restores. Not hard. It's only bad if you don't have the backup folder somewhere that you can get a hold of. Then it's bad. Maybe. If your network's not too big, it may not be worth messing with. But the one here on campus, we got lots of different scopes, and we got 4 different campuses, physical sites, and we got lots and lots of reservations and stuff. set out there and it's really complicated. So yeah, you definitely don't want to lose and have to reset up our DHCP server here on campus. Okay, let's look at some of the advanced stuff. So we've got our scope. We've got the address pool. If you click on that, it shows you what addresses you can we can't modify them from here, but we see our excluded ranges, IP addresses that will not be pushed out to clients, and then the whole pool. So 50 to 254 client machines can get on the address lease. You can see the address lease. We got one client, so there's one in there. Yes. Interesting.
We have become part of the network.
So your host machine decided to get an address from the DHCP server too. Well, that's pretty cool. Not really, but mind later. I wonder if, I guess we'll figure out in security class if we can still get to the internet on the other virtual machines. Anybody else have that? Or is that just Jared?
I had it too.
Okay. Well, I guess that's not too much of a bad thing, but interesting. So now I'll know if we do have some issues. Let me go look at my host addresses here. Jared, go and bring up your host computers, and it's probably this public network right here that may be getting it. The internal network. Look at your machines. You've got 3. What in the heck? In the Linux chapter 13. How do you have a Linux chapter 13? Huh. Click details on that one to see. You got the details button right in the middle of your screen. Details. That's the internal, and that's the one that's got it. Okay. Go ahead and hit close and close again. So weird. Let me look at my internal. Go and click on your internal and click properties. Go to TCP IP4 properties and just stay right there. Let me compare what mine has. Interesting. I have a static address on mine. And I'll have DHCP. All right, just cancel out. That shouldn't. Well, they'll just make note that some of the machines may be broken now as far as DHCP, but since it's internal, LAN 1 class they're also on internal, so there is always chances that DHCP could dish out addresses to their systems. Very interesting. So let's go ahead and look at reservations. We had no reservations, but what is reservations for?
Very fancy restaurant.
Yeah. So make sure you read the description here on reservations.
I had to set this up a couple weeks ago when we changed our Wi-Fi. Certain devices on DHCP need to have the same IP address all the time, so you can make sure that the system have that IP address reserved for them.
Yeah. This is cool. Like if you get a printer in, print device, as Microsoft calls it, you look at the print device and it has a MAC address on it. You can go ahead and punch in the MAC address and an IP address in the DHCP server. When you plug the printer in to the network, you already know what address to go to configure it. You can also look under address leases, and if you plugged in the device and you notice that you found the device, you can right click on it and add to a reservation. That's another option. Unique ID is the MAC address on the system. Let's go ahead and see if we can create a reservation for our client 1. So what I want to do with client 1, I want to go ahead and access client 1. Where's my client 1? So my client 1, let me see what the quickest, easiest way would be to grab the MAC address off the network card. I copy it out of here. I guess I can have my network card adapter open. I could also go on the client 1, whatever way you can see your MAC address. Oh goodness, my fingers. What in the heck? ipconfig/all. Well, there's my MAC address right there. I think that actually copied it if I hit enter on it. So if I go back to my server and I'll open up a notepad window in my server. No, that's not it. Okay, so I'll manually type it in. Arrange the 2 screens so that I can see I've got 00, 15, 5, D, A, 1, 50, 5F. Everybody's going to be different, so you got to record yours down. I've got mine recorded, and I can just go under reservations, and I can create a new reservation off of that MAC address. New reservation. Reservation name. I don't know. Client 1. Name of the computer. Probably the best thing to name it as. And then the MAC address. Oh, I have to type the IP address in there. I almost forgot. What address do we want to make it? What? Yeah, let's force it into an address. Let's make it how about 123? Sounds good to me. I'm going to click add and close. We've got a reservation here. It's got client 1. I can even, I think, manually configure options and actually change the router and stuff on that particular computer that other people wouldn't normally get. So if I wanted a custom options for it, I could do that. So we've got it reserved. I'm going to go now to client 1 and release that address. How do you release an address? I'm going to / release. I'm going to go and check server 1 and check my address leases, and I hit F5 and refresh it. Notice that since I released it, the DHCP server was informed that, hey, I don't want this address anymore, and it got rid of it. Now I've got an inactive reservation. That lets me know that the client is not using an address at this time. So I'm going to go back to my client and do a renew. And it's going to ask for the .50 back, and the server's going to go, no. The client's going to go, why not? I'm going to talk for a little bit and argue over it. And then finally, the client's going to go, okay, I'll take the 1, 2, 3. That's the only thing you're going to give me. So this machine will permanently be at 2.123 unless, of course, we delete that reservation. Or we change out the network card. That's weird. Try it again. Hit that barrel key and hit enter. Ta-da! It worked. So all we had to do is type the MAC address without any dashes or dots in it. Just straight paste it in there. You didn't notice that I didn't put any of the colons and stuff that the MAC address typically has. Because here it has 00-15-5D, you know. I didn't put anything in there. Sometimes they'll show dots between them or colons between them. No, it just wants the MAC address with no separators, just straight typed out. Type in an IP address. And now every time this computer shuts down, this person could go on vacation, come back 3 weeks later and start it up, and it works. And that's what Reservations for. They're great for printing devices. They're great for servers that you don't want to go in and statically assign an address to. Maybe you forgot to use sconfig and like, how do I get an IP address on this core server? Oh, I'll just take the MAC address, reserve it. Probably not the best to do it that way on servers. You probably statically type them in on servers, but still, and you can do that and leave everything with DHCP and control the reservations through here. But I do typically just limit the reservations to print devices and copy machines, things like that. Switches, routers, and actual servers, I'll just go ahead and statically assign. And I take advantage of the excluded range on those. If we had a router installed into the network, and I needed to go add in a router at a later point in time, I would click on scope options or server options, one of the two. One of them's like global for all scopes, and the other one's just for the specific scope. But so I'll click on scope options. What I might add in here would be a router address. So I could right click and configure. It brings me a list of options that I can click through. All this stuff, there's a bunch of them that can be supplied to client machines. Some of them Unix, Mac, Windows machine, Time Protocol. So there's router. I just simply put a checkbox, top the router address, click add, and I'd be adding in a router address. And it would add it in there. I'm going to cancel that. Now what I might have, the scope is for the particular subnet that you have. What you might have in the scope is the router address, and instead of having the DNS server and name server here, you might have that global over here, because you may have 2 DNS servers for your whole company, which could be common that you dish out to everybody, but each site would have a different router. So in this scope options, you'd only have the routers here, and you might have the DHCP server and domain names in the global option that goes to everybody. It's an option if you were that big, like here on campus. Do you have a question, Sean?
I'm having a bit of trouble. So my scope looks correct. So the server side looks correct. But for some reason, my client keeps getting this address. I've reset it like 50,000 times, but I'm not sure why it keeps giving me this address.
Are you on internal?
I'm on host only, which I believe is same as the others. If I set up static, it would work. That's who it was.
Okay, so VMware has a DHCP server built in, and you set it to host. Yeah, you have that's one thing with VMware Workstation. It'll have its own DHCP server running. And so what I've had to do in the past is turn off the DHCP server in VMware. Cancel that. Go back under your view or edit menu again. I thought I've seen something. Virtual network editor. So if you're on host only, DHCP is enabled on that. So click DHCP settings. And well, see, you're getting that address. There's a checkbox somewhere. Yep. It's good question. I haven't seen that before. I'm glad it's been a long time since I've done Workstation. Only like 2006 or something like that. That was a good one. If anybody plays with VMware Workstation, stuff like that, yeah, it can do its own DHCP and mess you up. That's why you have a genius instructor. Ta-da! It worked.
Yeah, I'm fixing that problem.
Quit laughing at me about being a genius instructor. See y'all back there. Brian, Jared, Haley.
Why did you join the name?
What now?
I've been setting up like a really old domain. Trying to.
Ugh, I don't remember that. Gross.
Like I got with 2000.
Ooh, 2000's worse. I'd rather play with NT4. NT4 is the server that I locked up whenever that I set Quake 2 to run in real-time mode. And it played for like 3 seconds. Really, really fast frame rates, but then NT locked up. Okay, well, that's IP version 4. There's not a lot else to do with DHCP server. There's some things with DHCP server. You'll study about DHCP relay, right? Helper address. So you might have several scopes out here. You can create lots of different scopes, and then on your routers at your remote locations, you'd add that helper address and point it to server 3 network. That way you wouldn't have to have DHCP servers at each location. Anybody at like the Air Force Base trying to get an address, the router just pick it up and encapsulate the packet into a unicast frame and send it to our router here. And then it would send it to the DHCP server. And then our DHCP server would realize it's been unicast DHCP request from it and or discover. It would look at the router that it came from. There'll be a tag in there. It came from this router address, and it will check the subnet and match the network to the scope. Pull an address out, send it back to the remote router, and then it will then push the address to the client. So I'm sure y'all studied that in Cisco. I don't think we need to go over that again thoroughly in this class, but that works too. IPv6. I think I want to play with IPv6 and DHCP, but I think I want to wait till Friday. I think so. So I'm gonna